The sun hung low and merciless over the Philippine Sea on the morning of June 19, 1944, and for one young lookout aboard USS Bunker Hill, that blinding wall of light would become the last warning he never got. Task Force 58, the most powerful carrier force ever assembled, steamed west of Saipan under Vice Admiral Marc Mitscher, 15 carriers and their escorts arrayed in tight defensive circles, radar antennas spinning, fighter director officers hunched over scopes in darkened combat information centers waiting. Vice Admiral Jezeburo Ozawa's first mobile fleet had committed nearly 400 aircraft to a desperate gambit, hoping to use superior range and shore-based airfields on Guam to crush the American fleet in one decisive blow. But the men flying those planes were not the veterans of Pearl Harbor or Midway. They were green replacements, rushed through abbreviated training, and waiting above them were Grumman F6F Hellcats, flown by pilots who had spent 2 years perfecting the art of killing in the air. By mid-morning, the slaughter was already underway. Raid after raid intercepted dozens of miles from the task force. Hellcats diving out of high cover to tear through formations of Zeros and Judies before they ever glimpsed an American hull, and sailors topside aboard the carriers could look up and see distant smudges of smoke and falling debris marking where another raid had been broken apart. The spectacle so lopsided that pilots returning to refuel and rearm joked over the radio that it felt like a turkey shoot back home, a phrase that would outlive every one of them in the history books. But no defense, however brilliant, is ever perfect, and amid the chaos of Raid 2, a single Yokosuka D4Y Swiss dive bomber, a sleek and fast machine the Americans called a Judy, slipped through a gap in the fighter screen by doing something so simple it was almost primitive. It climbed into the glare of the sun and held there, invisible to the straining eyes of lookouts and the cross-checking glances of gun crews, a tactic as old as aerial combat itself, yet still devastatingly effective against ships that could not afford to miss a single contact. Aboard Bunker Hill, gunners stood at their 5-inch mounts and clusters of 40mm Bofors and 20mm Oerlikons, sweating through dungarees already soaked from hours at general quarters, scanning a sky crowded with friendly fighters and drifting flak bursts, when the Judy nosed over and came screaming down out of that white-hot patch of sky, engine howling, bomb bay doors already open. For a handful of seconds, that must have felt like an eternity to the men who saw it first. The carrier's anti-aircraft batteries swung and opened up in a thunderous overlapping roar, tracers stitching upward in glowing arcs, the ship beginning the violent evasive turn that flight deck crews had drilled into muscle memory, the great hull heeling as the helmsman threw the wheel over, blowers and ventilation fans suddenly drowned out by gunfire and the shriek of the diving plane. The bomb dropped late, the pilot's aim thrown off by the carrier's hard turn, and the storm of flak bursting around him, and it struck the water close aboard rather than the flight deck itself. But the consequences were still immediate and lethal. A geyser of seawater and white-hot shrapnel erupting upward and lashing across the starboard side. Fragments tearing through gun tubs and ready ammunition lockers, killing several sailors outright and wounding dozens more in an instant. The deck slick with blood and seawater even as damage control parties and corpsmen rushed forward through smoke that should not have existed from a near miss, but did, fed by ignited powder canisters and shattered fuel lines from parked aircraft. The Judy itself, trailing smoke from the gauntlet of fire it had flown through, never pulled out of its dive. Plunging into the sea just beyond the carrier's wake, its pilot and observer entombed in wreckage that sank within seconds, an end as anonymous as thousands of other young men lost that day on both sides of the fight. What makes this single attack remarkable is not its scale but its intimacy, a reminder that even within the most lopsided aerial victory of the Pacific War, individual sailors still faced individual terror, still bled and died and fought fires within feet of where they had been standing watch only moments before, while around them the broader battle continued its almost mathematical destruction of Japanese naval aviation. Nearly 250 Japanese aircraft shot down that single day against the loss of barely 30 American planes, a ratio so staggering that the United States Navy would never again face a credible Japanese carrier air threat for the remainder of the war. By nightfall, 2 of Ozawa's fleet carriers, Shokaku and the brand new Taiho, lay on the bottom of the sea as well, torpedoed separately by American submarines in a stroke of fortune that compounded the day's catastrophe for Japan. and the following day's strikes would claim a third carrier and cripple much of what remained of the mobile fleet's air arm. For Bunker Hill and her crew, the wounds from that one near miss were patched, the dead honoured, and the ship sailed on to fight in battles still to come. A small, bloody footnote within a battle whose true significance lay in arithmetic rather than drama, the irreversible gutting of Japan's ability to contest the skies over the Pacific, a loss from which her naval air service would never recover, paving the way for the fall of Saipan, the seizure of airfields that would soon launch B-29 superfortresses against the Japanese home islands, and the slow, grinding certainty of an American victory that, after June 19, 1944, no longer seemed in doubt to anyone watching from either side of the Pacific.